Good to see you, Coach. I think the last time I saw you face to face, I was officiating one of your games in the probably late 1990s. You were killing someone by 20, and you weren't in the best mood. You were your game face was on, even though you guys were playing great that day.
Well, I was really always about the execution, and the score. I always let that take care of itself. So I tell the kids, if we couldn't play where I thought we should play, that wasn't going to be. If we played as hard as we could and we lost, that was fine. And if we did everything we could, but if we were coasting and not playing up to our capabilities, that was not going to sit well with me. So that was just where I held my expectation bar.
It's interesting because I was just talking to a coach today, coaches in my son's soccer organization, and his team, I guess they'd won this big game. They won the Dallas Cup, which is almost like a national title for a soccer team. And so we played a summer league game yesterday, and I guess it was a draw. And this guy was saying, the kids, we can't lose to teams around here. And my point is, you just go out there and play and execute and let the wins and losses take care of themselves.
I think that's always been my approach. And, it's my job to prepare the kids and to hold them accountable and to try to raise them to the highest level that they're capable of. And then, let them know that my expectation is that they're going to play at that level at all the time. And, then I think if you do that, like I say, the wins and losses take care of themselves. And usually, to be honest with you, you come out on top.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, Coach Priester, obviously you've had this incredible career at Oakton. I just found out this year that you were at McLean. You're in the Hall of Fame at McLean as well. I had no idea you were there before. I guess I was at school. I was away when you were in the meat of your McLean career. But anyway, I just thought it'd be great to get you, on a podcast, you just kind of talk about your philosophy and your background. I was reading your profile online. I should have figured it out. Like all proper basketball people, you're from Indiana.
Yes, I am. And I wish I could tell you that this was going to be one of those stories of star player goes on to successful coaching career, but there's a lot of twists and turns to my story. So I was born in Indianapolis, and when I was just starting grade school, we moved out into what was then, I guess, a suburb. Basically, it was like 40 or 50 houses plunked down in the middle of a bunch of cornfields, and tar and pea gravel roads and no sidewalks, and it was in a good location. There was a new Catholic school there, and pretty much all the kids in my neighborhood went to Catholic school right there. I mean, we walked 100 yards to the school, and we played CYO, Catholic Youth Organization basketball and baseball, and we didn't have any little league out there in those days. I jumped right in playing 90-foot bases when I was like in fourth grade. So, which was good. I was a small kid, and I played. In truth, I was a better baseball player than I was a basketball player. But I loved basketball. I loved it so much. In fact, I was thinking about it last night. My first, and I tell people this a lot. My first sports idol was Oscar Robertson. I was about 7 or 8 years old when he was at Crispus Attucks in Indianapolis, and I lived in Indianapolis, and so that was my team. When we went to the state tournament, and Indiana had that in-state tournament, and I saw pictures of him and the team. I never saw a game. The only games I ever saw were the ones I played in. We didn't have a television until I was 10, 11 years old.
Is that right? Wow.
Right. And so I listened to the games on the radio, and, guys that, I was thinking about this. I was out in Indiana a couple of weeks ago, and I stopped in at the Hoosiers gym, and, just reminded me, I watched that movie all the time. And the two guys that are doing the announcing in that are the actual guys that did it all those years ago, Tom Carnegie and Hilliard Gates. And I mean, they brought the game alive for me through the radio. And I would just my little pad and keep track of the score and all this stuff. And every game would be on the radio, and I would listen to it religiously all through the sectional and the regional and the semi-state and the state final in 55 and 56. And, Hoosier Hysteria was just meant so much to people who love basketball. I mean, all in tournament, everybody going at it. I was just a hair young for the actual Milan situation, which spawned Hoosiers. It was right after that. It was the next 2 years after that that Christmas Addicts won the state tournament. And then Oscar went on to University of Cincinnati, and we listened to those games on the radio. And so I stayed involved with basketball on the radio, and as I said, I was a small kid, and so I was a good baseball player, and I actually I was a finalist to be the bat boy for the Indianapolis Indians when I was in 8th grade, and I was looking forward to that being my leap into professional baseball. But then we moved.
Yeah. Did the Catholic schools play with the public schools in the Indiana state tournament?
They did. When I moved to Terre Haute, which is about 70 miles to the west, and I went to a Catholic school there, Schulte High School. It was, the land was donated by Tony Holman, who was the owner of the Indianapolis 500, and so he wanted to be named Holman High, but the Archbishop had other ideas, and so I think Tony Holman took his money and went someplace else with it after that. But the school was a great school. There was only like 400 kids in it, and we played against all the public schools, and they were mostly up around 1,000. And our school was kind of a football school more than anything else, but was pretty good across the board. But we played in the Western Indiana Conference, and when time came for tournaments and stuff, we were there. Now, when I went to high school, I started high school about. I was 5 feet tall, 99 pounds. And so, of course, I played football. It was a football school for my freshman year. But then I got a little after that and helped out with the team just to stay close to my friends. But, I mean, there were only 400 kids in the school, so we were pretty close anyway. But, I tried out for the basketball team, and not unpredictably, I didn't make it. We had a lot of guards in the class, and I was one on the smaller side. And actually, 3 of the 4 years I played, tried out for the basketball team in high school, I didn't make it. So certainly didn't make it my senior year. A little more successful in baseball, and got a little recognition there, and Babe Ruth and. And all-stars and things like that, and I don't know, it seemed like baseball was a better fit for me, although I still love basketball so much. And I in high school, our team was pretty successful, but you could win your conference in those days, but if you didn't win the sectional, that really didn't matter, because everybody was in. You had to play a sectional. I mean, in the game, for the sectional, you had to play 4 games, and you played Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and Saturday night to win the sectional. And the class right ahead of mine was a super class, probably the best athletic class in the history. The school was only open for 25 years. And so, it was like a waiting thing anyway, and like my senior year, the coach came in, and there was a bunch of us trying out and a bunch of guards, and he kind of looked at us and he said, well, boys, I think we're going to go with some younger boys this year. And so we just walked out. Didn't know what else to do. So about 6 of us, I was probably in the middle of that pack, 6 of us, we just walked out. Because I had grown to a whopping 5'8", 125 at that point. And, that's about as big as my 6th grade granddaughter now. But anyway, so, that was the end. I had a notion. I could have thought about playing baseball in college, but those were different times. The late 60s. I left home when I was 17 and went on my own, and was working full time on the railroad. And that first summer, I laid track and cleaned cars, and then once school started, I got into an office as a clerk, working 11 at night to 7 in the morning. paying my rent and, putting a roof over my head and all of that. And, I played a lot of pickup ball then. I had some guys that I played with a little bit in high school, and I didn't play that much, but I played a little bit with them in high school, and some other guys we were really good. And in Indiana, being at Indiana State, which had a tremendous reputation. John Wooden coached there, and we had several. If you go back and look, we had a lot of NAIA championships and things like that. So even the kids that weren't on the team, you could play a little bit, And so I had gotten better and a lot more confident, and a lot stronger, and so we won a lot of games and got to in those days freshmen that came in could not play on the varsity team. They had to be on a freshman team. There was no freshman on varsity in those days in college. And so we played pickup with those guys all the time, the guys that came in on the freshman teams and stuff like that. And we were a little bit older. We were sophomores and juniors. And we held our own. We held our own pretty good. And that group went on to be a runner-up and make the Division II. It's Division II now, but it was called small college in those days. National championship, won a runner-up in '68, I think. And not to say we could beat them or anything like that, but we held our own. We had some good experiences with doing that. But anyway, as the '60s wore on, I started out. When I was in high school, I was the editor of the newspaper, sports editor, and sports editor of the yearbook. So I thought, if I couldn't play, I wanted to be a sports reporter. And so that's what I set out to do when I was in college. But the '60s intervened, and I got very involved with the issues of the day and the war and civil rights and things like that became much more important to me than sports. And so I was involved in that, working 11 at night to 7 in the morning, going to school in the daytime and trying to do whatever I could from my end in terms of organizing and protesting and things like that, out there in the streets a little bit, working with some kids that weren't doing well and trying to make some sort of a difference in the world. And, that '68 was a tough year,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy were taken from us. And I was pretty radicalized by that point. And, like I say, sports wasn't really a part of my thing at that. And so I went on and tried to do that. And when I got out of school, I went to grad school, and at the same time was working as a caseworker for child welfare, and got myself married and had a kid. And anyway, that was what college was all about for me. And so sports was, aside from pickup and some fast pitch softball on the side, I was not really engaged in that. So after that, I moved on to New York. My wife was from New York, and again got involved in some slow pitch and fast pitch softball up there, but I was primarily out on the street. We moved to Mount Vernon, New York, and that's on the borderline of the Bronx, and out there working on trying to keep kids out of trouble, trying to keep them off drugs, trying to keep them out of the courts. And I was like 22 years old, 23 years old, and sort of a mod squad kind of guy. And as I moved up in the organization, till by the time I was 26, I was running the city agency that ran all these programs. And one of my little side stories on that is that for a couple summers there, I had this young man who was a real go-getter and was always trying to talk me into paying him another 25 cents an hour. And it was really a great guy and worked hard. And so one day he came into my office, we were sitting there and we're having a conversation. He said, well, I'm thinking about dropping out of college and going into acting. And I said, well, now listen, Denzel, I don't think that's a good idea. But in fact, it was Denzel Washington, and he didn't drop out of college, but he went on to be a great actor after.
That's great.
And I was no help in that. I told
yeah. Were you familiar with Ray and Gus Williams and the McRae brothers?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would play pickup there on Sunday mornings at Hartley Park, which was right downtown. I know there was another park over on the south side, 4th Avenue. I didn't go up there very often to play on a Sunday because it was just too far to walk. But anyway, I would go over there. But by around about noon or so, I'd kind of ease off to the side and just watch. You know, they were just way good. I mean, Mount Vernon High School was, you know, they have had so many kids. You know, Lowe's Moore and the McRae brothers and Gus and Ray. And I knew all those guys, you know, because I ran youth centers and they would, you know, pop in there once in a while. Interestingly enough, there was a guy who came in and, you know, he was struggling a bit but he never was without a basketball, never without a basketball. And when Jasmine was playing for him, we went down to Charlotte for a tournament and Mount Vernon High School was there and he was the coach.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
I said Bobby Semino, and he recognized me right away. He said, "Remember you running that youth center over there on Grampton Avenue?" And I said, he said, "I spent so much time there. The only time that was the only place I went. I left home. I went there. Went to the basketball court. Went back there. Went back to the basketball court. Then went home. I mean, it was a great guy."
My sister ended up going to Manhattan College in Riverdale. She played, I guess, Faye or Kay Young. I forget which one. Yeah, Young. One of the twins. The other one was married to Bill Cower. I get them confused. But she played there for a few years, and then she transferred to George Washington. So I was familiar with that area, Mount Vernon, Riverdale, I guess Yonkers area too, right?
Yeah, Yonkers. I mean, yeah, there was, I'm trying to think of that guy's name. Bernard Toon was over at Yonkers. And, you know, there was guys coming from all over. And like I say, I'd played for a while, but pretty soon I could just tell that was like a bit over my head. And I just hang and watch, you know. But I was so proud to even be on the court with them a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
So
when did you decide to get into teaching?
Well, my wife was a teacher, and so I was actually doing research and putting together programs for this. And one of the things that I started working on was special ed, because a lot of the kids had learning problems, and special ed wasn't even a thing then, you know. I mean, they pretty much just took all the kids that weren't getting it and put them in one room. It was like the wild, wild west in there. And so, you know, I said, well, maybe I should get involved in this a little bit, because I you know, I like working with people. I like helping people. And so I started a master's degree in special education over in New Rochelle. And I was still working at the city, and there was political problems and blah, 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 blah. So I thought maybe this is a good time to do something else, you know. So I took a job in New Rochelle for kids who were thrown out of school for assaulting teachers. And Dr. Spillane was who later became there's a lot of crosses in my life. Dr. Spillane actually hired me for that job. He was the superintendent there before he came down here. But anyway, I was there for a couple of years, and then my wife and I went to a convention down in Atlanta, and we got so many offers for jobs that it was crazy, all over the country. I mean, I still have a bunch of contracts from all over the country. And what I was thinking to do was start my PhD, and I had a lot of connections with a guy in Kansas and Virginia and Texas, all kinds of places. And thought I'd go to University of Kansas, but that didn't work. That didn't pan out. So I wound up the night I came back from Kansas saying, I don't know if this is going to work out. My wife wasn't very happy. We got a call from Fairfax County. And I said, well, let's go down and take a look. And her cousins lived over by West Springfield off Rolling Road. And so we had that. And we went down, we looked around, said, this is a pretty good place. You know, we didn't live in a bad spot in New York. Mount Vernon's a nice town. But we were thinking about, you know, our kids and stuff and trying to maybe not be in the city. And so we wound up down here and I started my PhD. And so I got assigned to McLean High School that first year. And, you know, by the time spring got around, I went to the head baseball coach, and a guy by the name of Dave Reeves. I said, Dave, could I help out with baseball? I love baseball, you know. And I thought I thought it would be a fun thing. Well, there wasn't any supplement splitting then. He says, well, you're welcome to come out and volunteer and help out wherever you can, you know? So I said, okay. So I pretty much stayed at home and coached first base for the JV when they were there and the varsity when they were there, and split my time between the practices. And man, I had a great time. And I met some great people at McLean, great coaches who I give so much credit to for helping me in my quest to be a good coach. Bill Hillbold, who was coached football at McLean, of course, and then coached at Robinson, and then became the AD at Herndon. And after he retired, went up and coached for years over in Maryland, and became a kicking guru. And I still Teddy Pease, who was a great soccer and wrestling coach there, and later on Tim Gordon, who after the first few years, Tim Gordon, who was baseball coach at Chantilly and wound up being the AD at Fairfax. And Gabe Oliverio, that's a name you know. He was the basketball coach then, and we were all on a football staff. And so we started.
About what year? This is like 1980, about then.
Yeah, 79, 80, right? Okay. 79, 80, right? And so there I was coaching football and baseball, and starting to lose interest in that PhD. So I had a great opportunity in football to coach Eric Dorsey, who graduated in 81, and I was his position coach. And one of the things that came out over the course of my career, I'm very proud of the fact that I coached professional people, went on to professional athletes in football, baseball, and basketball. And I think there's probably not a world of people that can say that. I'm sure there's plenty, but not a world. But so then 1981, things had changed in girls basketball, and some of the old pioneers who coached all the women's sports, people like Dee Webb and Gene at Marshall, Gene Johnson at Langley, and Cricket Paul and Mary Lou Carroll at McLean.
Addison Carley at Robinson. Right,
Addison Carley. They were all starting to, move away, particularly from basketball, because basketball had gone from being, an after-school kind of thing, because all the sports they coached, they played the games after school, to being a nighttime thing and a little bit more involvement and things like that. So they were stepping away from that at that time. And so one of our football coaches, a guy by the name of Chuck Humphreys, who played football at GW years ago, he could shoot though. He took on the basketball job. Well, they asked me to be, they were always looking for coaches. They asked me to be a tennis coach one time. I said, well, I can hit a tennis ball, but I could not help this guy. We had a guy at McLean in those days named Danny Goldie, who went on to be a pro. I said, how am I going to help you? Well, how about golf? I said, well, golf. I mean, I'm a decent golfer, but I can't help these people with their games. I'm not good enough, And they said, oh, you just have to organize things. I said, well, I don't think that's what I'm interested in. I said, if I was going to coach anything, it'd be, I don't know, JV girls basketball. They said, bingo. we got an opening here, and we'd love for you to join us. I guess I had shown that I knew a little bit about how to coach kids and how to get something out of them. And so there I was, coaching JV girls basketball. And that first.
So what did you do? How did you learn how to be a basketball coach?
I'll tell you, I think the first thing I had to learn, I mentioned those guys, they helped teach me how to be a coach. Okay. How to, get the most out of kids, how to prepare myself to be able to teach them the things they need to know, and then to be in a position to demand that. I was a typical football coach in those days. I was screaming and hollering and all that stuff like that, because that's all I knew, all my coaches when I was in high school, I was scared to death of them. I never even said a peep around them. If they said anything to me, I said, yes, sir. That was it. I had a baseball coach when I was just a young kid who was disabled and in a wheelchair. And he taught me more about baseball than anybody I ever had after that. And, So I didn't know anything about coaching. So those coaches tell me, well, I knew enough about basketball. But I will be the first to tell you that I was super condescending. I mean, I was like, oh, it's okay. All right, are you okay? That kind of thing, because I didn't really understand the female athlete at that time, you know, so that first year we did okay. But what I learned from the girls was that they wanted to be coached, and they wanted to be coached hard. Well, they didn't want to be yelled at all the time, but they wanted to be, you know, corrected and redirected and all of those things that coaches should be doing. And so then the next 3 years, we won a lot of games. You know, I credit a girl by the name of Kelly O'Brien, who lives, I think, out in Loudon now. I hear from her from time to time. We still are in communication. This is now, you know, early 80s. She was just such a great, I don't know. She and I worked so well together. I learned so much from her about how to get the most out of girls and how to get the most out. And the first word was treat them as athletes. That's all. Just treat them as athletes, you know, and they'll respond. And that's what that's what, I mean, I love basketball to begin with, and being able to communicate in a way that would really bring visible results to these young ladies was just amazing to me. And I just fell in love with it all. And even though I still had in the back of my mind I might be a head baseball coach at some time, I just got increasingly involved on the girls' side. And I started running a camp in 1984 down at Longwood, and Red Jenkins actually ran a camp for boys down there, and then he started up a girls one, and Karen Turner and her sister Kathy, who kind of blew through here for about 4 or 5 years, and Sue Owens, they invited me down, and I was a JV coach still, and I went down there and I worked really, really hard, and I think I impressed a few people, but mostly I just learned stuff. And I just remember sitting there talking to Red, at the end of camp. And then, I don't know, a month later, I saw him at the mall. And he came right up to me and said, "Hey, Fred Priester, how you doing? How's that JV basketball team over there at McLean?" I went, "Oh my God, Red Jenkins knows who I am. That's the greatest thing ever." Okay. And years later, I asked him, I said, "Red, I can't tell you how impressed I was about that." And he said, "Well, I made it my business to always remember names and faces." Of course, he became a politician, so that served him well. But I took that from him. That was something I learned from him, and so that's why when I throw out all these names and stuff like that, it's because I worked hard at trying to remember all this stuff and make sure I knew people. But anyway, so that was how I got involved, and teaching, special ed, and then I sort of moved over to my roots and got into counseling, and that was, that goes all the way back to my, reaching out to kids on the street and trying to talk them through stuff and help them, stay. And the school counseling is certainly different, but it's proactive. It's a bit directive. It's not that different than coaching, in its own way. And I think as we've gone over the years, I think the counseling skills have come in as handy as any coaching skills I might have developed.
Yeah. So when did you get the varsity? Did you get the varsity job at McLean basketball, or did you?
Yeah. I got after 4 years on the JV in 1985, I took over the varsity, and that was the first year I started coaching AAU. And in those days, you couldn't be a high school coach and coach AAU. The rules prohibited it. Ironically, the rules did not prohibit college coaches from being, because Denise Murray, who was the head women's coach at GW, was worked with the Vogues in that capacity with the 18 and under team. I look back at that with some surprise, given how the NCAA is, but I got involved in 98. So I got that job. And that first year I brought a bunch of kids up from my JV. And we went like 8-13 or something like that. And but each year after that, next year we won 9, next year we won 10, then 12, then 14, then 16, then 20 in 92. And I think I like to say that the players got better, but I got better too. You know, I became a better coach. I had a great opportunity to coach again, a lot of great players. And also then in AAU, I was getting to coach a lot of great players. It was a great balance for me because, you know, at McLean, we had good kids who would work really, really hard, mostly multiple sport athletes, but not basketball players at heart. And then I would go to AAU and I was coaching the best kids because the Vogues was the premier organization in those days. And I got to coach the best kids. So I got to try things out and learn things and see what it's like to coach great players. And it was a great balance for me. And, you know, I was going to be Cal Ripken. I was going to stay at McLean forever, you know, and I was not caught up in, you know, and I knew that we would lose. I had some great players. I had Mo Walthius, who went on to BYU. She was my first great player. I had Susan South, who played at George Mason. My daughter, even though we still lived in Chantilly, came into McLean with me. She went and played at Columbia. But, you know, we had primarily kids that just wanted to play and would, you know, I'd say they'd run through a wall for me. They would do anything I asked them to do. And, you know, that was, I was fine for me. I was fine with that. But, you know, I know you, then I moved to Oakton. Okay. Well, how did I move to Oakton? You know, I was like any coach, you know, you get your critics and all, and that's okay. I really never paid a lot of attention to the parents. I you know, I was polite and I was, you know, hi, how you doing? Da, da, da. But I was mostly interested in forming relationships with the players. And that was true on both the boys' side and the girls' side. I think coaching girls made me a better coach of boys. And I kept coaching football and I kept coaching basketball. And now I added AAU. And later on, a few years later, I would add American Legion baseball. So I was coaching. And as I said, that PhD went the way of the wind. And I was just, this was where I was going to do with my life, you know. And so I had some great people that I worked with, you know, some great rivals and also some great people. There were so many good coaches back then. Melissa Trowbridge at Braddock and Lauren at Annandale and Tracy Schneeweiss and, you know, so many great people that I had a chance to work with at camps and stuff. And running that camp down there, we had 150 kids come down there several years, you know. It was an overnight camp, and we put them on the court at 8 o'clock in the morning and let them off the court at 9 o'clock at night for 5 straight days. And, you know, you could see kids get better in a week. I mean, huge better, just from sheer repetitions. I don't know if kids would go for that now, but I mean, we had them shoot 100 jump shots before breakfast.
Wow.
And
so when I know you're in the Hall of Fame at McLean. Did you make the Hall of Fame strictly based on your coaching of girls basketball, or was that from coaching the other sports as well?
Well, I think that I wound up with 130 wins, which was more than anybody had at the time. I don't know. I think Michael Bryan came there after, and he did a good job for several years, but maybe didn't get that. And Jen Sabota's done a good job for several years. They just got 20, and 20 still the most wins I think any McLean girls team has won. And I think she tied that. And I thought, oh, she's going to get it, because Jen and I are friends. And then they went on a losing streak and didn't get it. So I don't know, she might be real close to that. But it was that, and plus the fact that I coached football there for 12 years, and I coached baseball there for, I don't know, 16, 17 years. So it was, you know, length of service, you know, good success. We didn't, you know, McLean was a small school, you know, we had 1,300 kids, you know, and it was tough work. I mean, coaching football, you know, we had a lot of tough seasons. You know, we had a great season in 80, and we had a couple good seasons in there in between, but we had a lot of tough seasons. And so I don't know. I coached Rusty Payne, who I know you know, and I coached his sister, and I coached all the Freemans, and I coached a whole bunch of people there. And so I don't know. I think I had some support for that, and it was a proud moment for me. I never went into any of this for any kind of looking for the credit. And I think if anybody that really knows me knows that I kind of shy away from that. But it was great to be recognized in that way. And so, and I still see some of those people, and they'll say, hey, man, you should never have left McLean. And I left, and my daughter had just graduated, and Sandy Reynolds at Oakton called me up and said, hey, and I was the president of the Coaches Association, had been for several years, and still am. But she said, hey, I just had to let my coach go. Do you know of any young coaches that are looking for a job? And I said, what about a kind of older coach? And she said, like who? And I said, me. She said, would you be interested? And I said, yeah, well, maybe. So I came over and interviewed, and, I didn't know anything about any of their players. I mean, they had been in and out of our district because they jumped from Great Falls, then went into the Northern. And I knew that they struggled in the Northern. And, one glimpse at the banners in our gym will tell you that, yes, they definitely struggled. They had some great individuals, but just not many great teams that could compete against the Robinsons, like Braddock's, TC, all those strong teams, I went over there for an interview, and she, I got the job. And so I walked in the gym the first day, and we had it wasn't practice. It was like some kind of workout, which I don't even know what they called them in those days. We after school, intramurals, whatever we called them, somehow to get the kids in the gym. And Derek Fisher, who I coached in football and baseball, and who was later the coach at Lake Braddock and Loudoun County, and now he's at Woodgrove. He's been very successful, won a regional title at Lake Braddock. But he was there. I turned to him. We watched for about half an hour. And I watched, and I said, we're winning the district title here. He said, yeah, in a couple of years, these kids will be pretty good. They're just sophomores. I said, no. We're winning this year. Because there was more talent in that gym than I was used to, a lot more. And bigger school, just a lot more talent. And thank God the girls followed through, because we did. We won that district in that first year, and went 20-7. And Madison was a powerhouse then, and we played them early in the season, and they just killed us.
Who was on that Oakton team? Who were your
Danielle Leifert was the main player. Who she went on by her senior year to actually be player of the year in the Northern region and first team All-Met. Katie Scott, who went on to play at Western Carolina. Alicia Acker, who was the best kid I ever had that never went to Division I, that should have, because we were playing South Lakes that year at South Lakes. I can't remember who we were playing exactly, but we're up by a bunch, and she goes diving for a ball out of bounds and crushes her shoulder against the and so that was her junior year. And so that set her back that AAU season, but I believe she was a Division I player. She went on to be a Air Force pilot. So
oh wow,
super tough kid. This is a kid that we were pressing a lot in those days and up in people's faces. And I remember one time she ran off the court, puked in a wastebasket, and got back down to the other end in time to score a kid on the next shot. But I mean, she was just a tough kid. We had a little point guard who was the fastest kid I ever saw on a basketball court, named Shanti Rowe. And so it was a real good team. But we played Madison, and they were very good. And they beat us about 90-something to 50. And, I remember back in those days, there was lots of newspaper coverage of high school sports. We had Tommy Orndorff writing for The Connection, and we had the Northern Virginia Sun, and we had all these newspapers. So there was a lot of stuff going on in the papers. And I remember somebody saying, well, Madison running up the score and blah, 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 blah. And, and people complaining about that. And I said, well, look, people got to do what they got to do. I'm not going to say it didn't hurt, but I mean, at the same time, if you're getting a score run up on you like that, then my answer to that is get better, So that's what we tried to do. And when we played them in the semifinal that year, we lost by about 8. So we got about 50 points better or 40 points better. So, I mean, that was my answer to those kinds of things. But anyway, so then it just, they were all sophomores then, and we had 2 more good years after that. And then we actually didn't win the district in their senior year, I think, but we went far, but we couldn't get by the regional semifinal, which was the gateway to the state tournament.
Yeah. Tactically, were you a much different coach back then than you are now?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think there's 2 things I think that I've always hung my hat on, and I just got better at. The first one is I've always tried to coach my team and accentuate the things that we were best at. Now, we were always going to be working hard on defense, but what we did, you can look at, if you looked at our statistics, you'd see sometimes we score a lot. Sometimes we don't score as much. Sometimes we're more deliberate. Sometimes we were slow. Sometimes we run. It just depends on who we had. Now, during this time, you got to remember, we went through changing the ball size, adding the 3-point thing. Those all happened, in the early 90s. And, so that changed the way people were playing. When I first started coaching, there was a lot of zone defense. We played zone, but then we stopped playing zone. And when I got to Oakton, we pretty much played man-to-man almost exclusively since then, but with a lot of interesting wrinkles that I learned losing a game in Texas in 1998. Now I saw what I think had to be the predecessor of the pack line defense there. And so we adopted a lot of that, but a lot of times we played SOS defense. We were up in your face, switching everything. And our goal was to try to get a 5-second call on a switch, because you can do that, even though a lot of people, including a lot of officials, don't know that. But I used to go up to the officials before the game when we were playing that style. I'd say, hey, listen, that it's possible to get a 5-second call on a switch. Closely guarded is closely guarded. It doesn't have to be by the same person. There's nothing in the rule about that. And so then that was our goal, to try to get at least one of those every game. And then we did a lot, But, those were great kids. And then we just had a succession. I mean, I had Sierra Cooper came along, and then Brooke Parker, Sarah Rappaport. And then, finally in 2001, we get by that seeming roadblock of the regional semifinals. We were playing a regional semifinal game against West Springfield, and they were always tough. Coach Gibson does a great job, and we banged heads a lot, and it was a tight game at halftime. We were playing at the Patriot Center, and I had a girl who a lot of people said I should have cut her, but she was just too good a kid to cut, and I started her every game. Now, she didn't play tons of minutes, but I started her every game. And she came out and hit the first 2 3-pointers of the second half, and that was it. Went on to win that game. And then we get all the way to the state final that year with Megan Scott and Maka Gugwa and Catherine Hill and Melinda Gant and this girl. And so anyway, we get to that state final, and we lost that in overtime, and that was a heartbreaker.
Who'd you lose to?
Hampton.
Okay.
The coach was a guy by the name of David Six, who went on to coach at Hampton University. I think he might still be there, And I know you talk about he did he was wearing this I don't know, it was a stylish suit at the time, And so he got down on the floor in the middle, and he's doing this little side thing, like that.
Yeah. I was at that game.
Yeah, that guy. We what had happened was in the semifinal, we played Deep Creek, and they were very good. And we went up, we ran an inbounds play and hit a back and went up one, and our guard went back and snatched the inbounds pass, and we finished it out.
Wow.
So then we're playing Hampton. It's the same kind of game. We ran a special play for Megan Scott. She drops a three from the top of the key. Nothing special now, but at the time it was a high-low play. We just had a down screen from the point guard. She came flying up. Mock was posting up down low, and she drops the three. We go up one. Kid goes back, try to make that same steal. Foul. So they tied it up, and we went into overtime. We lost the game. And, I mean, like I say, like we said at the beginning, I mean, we gave everything we had. The kids gave everything they had. I was disappointed we didn't win, but I couldn't be mad. I couldn't it took me a long while to go back and watch that replay, but at the same time, this film, but I was proud of the kids, and, that was just, I think we had broken through. And so we were happy to do that. And, we've had a great fortune of being back there many times since. We've been to the state Final Four, I think 9 times, and got to the final game, I want to say 5 times. And that was a tough loss. And in 2008, 2009, we were undefeated and lost once again to Hampton. They had
that was Jasmine. That was Jasmine.
No, that was the year after. No, we lost to Hampton in Jasmine's senior year. That was after what I will stand my ground to say was the greatest girls basketball game ever played in Northern Virginia. That was that 2007 regional final at the Patriot Center between Edison and Oakton, with Edison having Deanna Campbell, who went to UCLA, Chastity Clayton, who went to Florida State, and Adria Crawford, who I can't remember where exactly she went to. And we had Jasmine and 4 kids that would do anything that we needed to do. And I don't know if you recall that game, but it was the night game. That was that it was forced that the girls played the night game. And I know Wakefield boys played the game before. I can't remember who they played, but there were still people coming in for that game. Nobody left. 7,000, 9,000 people there. And that game came down to the end, and with about, I want to say 10 seconds left, Jasmine fouled their kid and fouled out. And so they went down and hit the free throws to tie the game up. And we came right back. Jasmine was on the floor. We came back with the kids we had and got fouled on the shot with no time left on the clock. Unfortunately, missed both free throws. And I was so concerned about the girl who missed the free throws, I could barely even think. I was just so worried about her and how she was going to react. And we went out in overtime. We wound up losing by 1. And even with, without Jasmine on the floor, and they still had their studs, and our kids just played their hearts out, 60-59. But it was, I think, the greatest girls basketball game ever played in terms of all of the hype and all of the ability that was shown and the crowd and all of that stuff like that. I mean, I can think of a few other great ones, but that one obviously stands out for me.
When you talked about UCLA and of course Jasmine went to Duke, generally, I mean, there's so much Division I talent in Northern Virginia, and unlike the boys' game, many of our girls star players have stayed public. Why do you think that is? I know what Jasmine said was that they get so much exposure during AAU anyway with the great players. It's just they can stay and play at their school, and there's really no incentive to go to the private school. But what do you think the reason is?
Well, I think that was the case then. I think things have obviously changed now a great deal. I think that I think that it was important for girls to go to school with their classmates, to be a part of their community, to not have to jump on a bus. I mean, Jasmine started out at Holy Cross,
Right.
and
Yeah.
The bus ride was just too much. And you know, she lived right down the street from Oakton, which I didn't even know. In fact, I don't know if it's a funny story, but a story is that I got a call saying, "Hey, is it possible for a kid to transfer from private school to public school?" Because I was kind of the authority of, you know, on the rules, being the Coaches Association president and just being very involved on the state level as well. And I said, well, of course, if they go into private school and where they live, then, you know, they can make that change, you know, one time. And then the phone rings again about an hour later and says, are you sure about this? And keep asking me questions. And I said, look, I'm telling you the rules. Here's the rules. And here they are. Here's the reference for the rule. And here you can do that. And I said, great. And they said, I said, okay. Well, then I got a third call and they said, well, listen, this is going to involve Oakton and it's Jasmine Thomas. And I said, I don't care who it is. You know, I didn't even really know who Jasmine Thomas was. I mean, I remember my assistant coach had told me about her. And I said, let me ask you a question. Is she going to Oakton? And they said, no. Oh, I said, is she going to public school at all? No. I said, I don't care. I can't, I got enough problems. I can't be dealing with kids who are going to private school. Well, anyway, so it turns out here she comes, and I meet one of the most fantastic people I've ever met in my entire life. Level, basketball player, person, whatever. I mean, I've been so blessed by my relationship with her. You know, on my last vacation, I was in Indiana, and I went to the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame and did that again, and stopped in at the Hoosiers gym, and they run tours there. And then I was in Indianapolis visiting my sister, and I was telling her granddaughter, I was saying, who likes basketball, I said, well, she says, I'm going to Indiana Fever next week to see Sabrina Ionescu. She's my favorite player. And I said, well, that's great. You know what? If the Connecticut Sun ever comes here, I can hook you up and you can meet Jasmine Thomas. She's their starting point guard. And so she said, that's great. And so I'm getting ready to text Jasmine, and her dad said to me, he says, they're playing here tomorrow night. I said, what? Change of plans. So we stayed. We went and saw her play. You know, she came out and met everybody, and you know, she's just so special, such a special person and player. I love her to death. I can't love her any more than I do. And we stay close, and her dad and I we stay close, and you know, it's just a relationship that I cherish so much, along with the relationship I've had with all of my players, you know, because we moved forward from 2008, 2009. Like I say, we go down there 2008, 2009. That's the Coyers' freshman year. We're 30-0. We go down there, we're playing Princess Anne, and they got Elizabeth Williams, who also went to Duke. She was the #1 recruit in the country that year. We set a state record for 3-pointers. 15 in the final game, lost by 10. We had a 3-point lead with about 2 minutes to go, and we got the ball. We came down, and probably should have held it, because great free throw shooting team in those days. We got to hit about 78% that year, and but kid took it in to shoot. You know, Zora Stevenson was on that team too. Now, let me throw out there that Zora is doing the color commentary for the Olympics now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she played at Elon, and she does the color commentary for the possibly world champion Milwaukee Bucks now. And now she's working at the Olympics, and they just did that exhibition game against Australia. She did some of that, you know, and so she's gonna do both. I'm sure she's gonna do men's and women's. So, but at any rate, we lost that game. And, but we had tremendous seasons. She was there. The Coyer twins were amazing to coach. Again, I'm very, very close with them. I stay in touch with them all the time. And Caroline, as Jasmine's case, Caroline, we retired her jersey, and Catherine, we named our Hustle Award after. So it's like the Catherine Coyer Hustle Award at our school. And, so I've been blessed with players. And so I got nothing but good experiences with coaching the girls, both at McLean and at Oakton. And even in these last few years where maybe our demographic has changed a little bit and our talent pool has gone down, the kids work so hard to do what I ask them to do. And even when we were having some down years there, we were still winning 16, 17, 18 games. That one year we really struggled. We 1-7 in the district, and then won 3 straight to win the district championship. And that's what basketball is, a tournament game. So,
it is.
This past year, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say real quickly, we can get back to this past year. So you're saying in the girls' game, there's been some bleeding of the talent towards private schools as well in the last few years?
Yes, I've lost a couple to private schools, and I've had other kids who were, they were Catholic and might easily have gone to Catholic school anyway, but have gone to O'Connell and Paul VI based on that, and gone to Catholic school myself. I certainly can't fault people for making that choice. That's an internal choice that they have to make, but I feel like if all the kids who were in Oakton had gone to Oakton, we wouldn't have had much of a fall off. But all I can do is coach the kids that are there. And I had some kids, like I say, that went to private school that would have been at Oakton, and I think that the shoe company's involvement in this has totally messed up AAU for women just as it has for men, and then you have, but it's also, changed the dynamic in the high schools, because those private high schools don't have the same rules that we have. We have a ton of rules that keep us away from kids, don't let us spend time with kids, don't let us teach kids. That's too much conversation in an off season, and all you can do is wave at them and stuff like that. The same concept you have with college coaches now. So it's hurt a lot. And I think the girls have it's just been a natural progression of them moving on to private schools. But I think we have great coaches in our public schools here in Fairfax for sure. And I don't think it necessarily helps them as much as they'd like to think. But a lot of this is parent driven. They see it as trying to put their kid in the best position. So, it's hard for me to be angry about it. I'm disappointed when I lose a kid, but people aren't going to make the choices they're going to make. I'm left to just react to it or not react to it. So I see it more. The whole AAU thing is gone. The Vogues were strong. I coached over 200 kids that went on to Division I scholarships with the Vogues. But once Nike got involved and started picking off, and started having this EYBL thing, and now then kids felt like that was their best way to go. I'm happy to say I still have a very good relationship with college coaches, and no matter who I take to these AAU tournaments, I tell the kids, I said, listen, I can get the college coaches there once. It'd be up to you to get them to come back. You got to play well enough. I've had more D3 schools players lately. To be honest with you, I think there's fewer D1 players in Northern Virginia than there ever has been. If you look at the rosters of some of these private schools, there's more kids from Maryland than there are from Virginia. And I think that volleyball and lacrosse have siphoned off a lot of people, and soccer, and frankly, the coaches of those travel clubs are, merciless in the way that they browbeat parents and kids into making kids into one sport athletes.
That's interesting. Because Northern Virginia has always been one of the hotbeds of girls basketball in the country. So when my sister played, if you look at the rosters, Robinson had Debbie Young and Teresa Rouse, ACC. Westbury had Lisa Lank, ACC. TC Williams had Kathy Grimes, ACC. Woodson they had so many Division I players.
They had Rudy and Paul Anderson and Rimson.
Oh, yeah, they do. I mean, ACC, SEC, everywhere. So that was just one small 6-team district. It's amazing that you say that there's not that many Division I players in the whole region anymore.
Well, I mean, I see most of the teams play, and there are some, but they're anywhere near at that level. And
wow.
It's I mean, in 2017, our team at Oakton, we had Delaney Conley, Loyola of Maryland, Maddie Royal, American, and Kaylin Fee to Robinson. So, I mean, there are D1 players. They tend to be a little bit lower on the pecking order. There's just more kids that are opting for, I have some of my kids that play volleyball, and I love having volleyball players on my team, but some of them are kids that they don't like to be touched a lot. So in basketball, you run into people. So, it's a little, and lacrosse, it's an exciting game, but it's one that is apparently one you can pick up pretty easy, because so many of my basketball players, from Zora Stevenson to others, picked up lacrosse in 1 year, and we're all district because there's basketball principles in there. And they know that if they're going to be defenders, they have to keep their body between the net and the ball, not just some flimsy stick, So
yeah.
So they come on strong there. But I don't know. We have I had a couple of very good players this year. One I think might have been able to go to low Division I, but really is just choosing not to play. And then Hannah Kalloy, who I think could have been a Division I player, but she's the #1 recruit for CNU this year, and is going to go down there. And I mean, they're one of the top 5 D3 schools in the country, and the whole public school by that. So, and I look around, and we just don't see as many people going D1. I know a couple kids from out at Paul 6 went D1, and Oakton kids, but whatever. But a lot of D3 kids and stuff. So, I don't know if it's going to make a comeback. It's just hard to say. It's hard to say.
What is you've had some great sports parents, and you've already talked about some of them, but what makes the best sports parent in terms of you, easy to deal with, but also motivating their kids and helping their kids to progress to their goals?
Well, I think it's critical that the parent be one who has a realistic view of their child's ability, and understands the fact that all climbing to a high peak is by a winding road. It's not a straight line thing from all-star in Little League to Major League Baseball, or County League All-Star to start for Duke. That's just not the way it works. And that in between there's going to be some ups and downs and some tough things. I think that they need to be someone who understands that I always tell my players, I said, listen, I respect your parents. I appreciate so much that they give you a chance to play this and be a part of our program. And I expect them to support you in every way that they possibly can. We make a big push in our program to say that we want 100% support 100% of the time, But my job is not quite that way. My job is to push you to the highest level that you can go, to coach you to the highest possible level and hold you accountable to that. That's a different kind of love. You know, they used to call it tough love, whatever. That doesn't mean I have to be yelling at you all the time. That means I have to take you to task if you're not doing if you're letting your teammates down and not playing to your potential. And I think parents have to understand that their kind of love is important and critical to their kids, but not being hypercritical of the coach and not siding up and making it against them kind of thing is it's not going to work. I was talking to one of my parents last night, and he was talking to me about, I don't know, something he heard. And I said, well, look, there's people out there that like me a lot, and there's people out there that don't like me. They talk behind my back, and they talk bad things about me. And some people say good things about me. He says, well, I say good things about you and bad things about you. I said, fair, absolutely fair. I said, I'm sure there are things that I do that don't disagree with you. I have letters from I have a letter from a parent who's thought I just ruined his kid's life. But I have multiple letters from people who said, I didn't really understand what you were doing at the time, but I get it now. And my kid probably always got it. I mean, I work hard to establish strong relationships with the kids so that they know that when I'm being critical of them or I'm holding them accountable, but I'm holding them accountable for what they do or don't do, not for who they are. I love them. And I would do anything for them, and I demonstrate that over and over again. I think if you do that, you can make demands on kids and they'll do for you. And even back when I was more in my raging days, I was at the Nationals game the day before yesterday, and I saw one of the guys I was really tough on coaching baseball and football. And he went to VMI where things got a lot tougher. But at any rate, so I guess I came out pretty good after VMI. I don't know. And then I saw one of my basketball players there yesterday, and she had a 1,000-point score, and she was there with her kids and her husband, and I mean, we had a good relationship at the time. Although there were times when her mom didn't care much for me, I can tell you. So, but it was. You got to coach your personality, and you got to coach in a way that provides the best avenue for the kids to get better.
Yeah. So I coached summer league for many years. And I was coaching one of Charlie Thompson's teams over at Robinson one year. And I had this kid named Dave Maria. And he's just one of these, he's a banger, set screens. He's kind of kid will average 8 points, 6 rebounds, middle screen, do a lot of things for you. So summer league, I didn't play him as much as he wanted to play. And one of the reasons why is in summer league, you try new things. You're going to try some kids that are from the JV team. You see what they can do. But David, you already know what you're going to have. So, I just probably didn't play him as much as Charlie would end up playing him during the season. So about 6-7 years ago, I was trying to get business out of it from his sister. I'm in sales to law firms. His sister is an attorney downtown. And we were just talking, because I didn't know her. She's much younger than me. But she said, yeah, my brother David doesn't like you. And I was like, David doesn't like, what do you mean he doesn't like me? He said, well, he says you didn't play him a lot when you coached him. So I didn't really remember it that way, but it's very logical that, and I was pretty much doing what Coach Thompson wanted me to do. I wasn't, I was playing the kids who want me to play, but, suddenly you're trying to do new things. And so, you were talking about that letter that was written to you, how you ruined some guy's life. It is amazing how you affect people's lives in ways you have no idea. I mean, this is something I had forgotten about. If you would have asked me this, I would have said, I treated David great. I played him a lot, but in his mind, I didn't. And it would never have occurred to me that was how he viewed me.
Well, I mean, like I say, you're going to coach for a long time. You have to make your peace with that, that they're going to remember you, and you hope that you've made a positive impact on your life. And I'm proud to say that I feel like I have in all three of the sports that I coach, because I see guys all the time that played for me, guys and girls that played for me. And I feel like the general opinion is that it was a positive experience for them that helped them as they went through their lives. But, it might be that he doesn't like you, but it might have made him a guy who tried a little harder at the next spot, or tried to expand his skills or whatever like that, that had nothing to do with basketball, but had to do with that. We do have a lot of responsibility to try to do the best we can with these kids, because it's a seminal point in their lives. I remember very clearly all the things that happened to me in high school, and that's been a long time ago. But Charlie was not a walk in the park, so Charlie coached together for a bit, but I learned some things from him too. So I'm very fortunate. Jim Smith's another coach I learned from. Gabe Oliverio. So many guys that I had that are now, obviously retired and things like that. I guess Jim's jumping back in at
George Mason.
Whatever the new name of it is, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And so I'm good for him. I mean, I coached football with him too, and and I actually remember him when he played at Stewart. So I mean, one of the cool things I think that for me has been I've coached a lot of girls who I coached their mothers. I coached their mothers, and now I've coached them. And like at this last camp I had two little girls, two little ballers that their mothers played for me, one Oakton and one in AAU, and they were so excited and actually three, two at Oakton and one. And they were so excited for me to be coaching their daughters, and I was excited that they thought that was exciting. so apparently they walked away with a good. One of them was one that I wound up having to cut, and she went away with the idea that she was treated fairly, and that I did everything I could for her, and that she moved on to do other things in other areas.
So Coach, do you think your skill set is particularly tailored for the girls' game, or do you think you would have had the same success if you would have been a boys' coach? I had a podcast with Coach Hayes from Potomac down Dale City, and he felt like that his skill set was much better with boys, but I think he didn't coach the girls for long enough to probably know that. But that's how
I remember when he coached the girls. I think we played them that year. We was on the team. I think we beat them. But anyway. No, I think, as I mentioned before, I think coaching girls made me a better coach of boys, because I think I changed the way I approached people, okay, in a coaching role, and I had some guys, when they changed coaches several times at Oakton, we had, when Charlie left, we had 2 or 3 different people. We had, I can't remember the other one guy's name, and Kublank, and different people like that. Some guys come up to me and they say, you should come over and coach the boys. And I said, you could not play for me. Not basketball anyway. I think basketball is a bit peculiar, and I'll tell you why. I think in football, when you're coaching guys how to not get crushed by the guy across from them, they pay attention, okay? When you're coaching guys in baseball, or softball for that matter, if it was girls, you're trying to teach them to do one of the hardest skills in sport. Hit a moving object that's round with another round object and somehow square it up, okay? So again, they're going to listen. Everybody thinks they know how to play basketball. Everybody. And they got ideas on basketball. The first year I was at Oakton, this I think illustrates my point. The first year I was at Oakton, I had 2, it was Sierra Cooper's brother and Bridget Walsh's brother, and they're great guys. They both went on to have nice careers on the boys team there, and Sierra Cooper's brother went down and played football at Virginia Tech. So I mean, he's good athletes now. So we had that first time of camp, and I was just squeezing down that 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. thing on a local level, and we were drilling them and 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 drilling them. And these guys were so bored. They want to know when we were going to start dunking. I said, not ever. How about that? I said, I know you can jump and I know you can dunk it, but that's not how to play basketball. Okay. I'm going to try to teach you how to play basketball. And after about 2 days of them whining and not wanting to do the things and not giving me full efforts and stuff like that, I just called their parents and said, I'm sending them home and here's your check. These guys are not really, and I'm sure that there are guys out there that would do all that drilling. And I know how hard the top players work and how willing they are to do these fundamental things, you know. But a lot of high school boys don't fall into that category. And so I just wanted people who would listen and do their very level best to do what I would ask them to do, and would get me 100% buy-in and buy into all the social and interpersonal and stuff that we include into every program. I mean, my teams have been coming to my house for 28 years, TPing it on the first day after cuts. Those are the kinds of things that they'll remember far after they remember how we did on the floor, how many points they scored, the interpersonal relationships, the activities. My wife and I would cook dinner and we'd have lasagna at center court one of the first weeks of school, and then they would have our parents would do so much. They would have the kids over for sleepovers, and we had meals every week, and all of those things that build a program. And those are all things that made our program special. And those things don't win games, but they certainly don't lose games, I can tell you.
Yeah. Coach, does social media affect the girls' game like it affects the boys' game? Like for example, boys sometimes are more worried about highlights they can tweet out or put on Instagram almost more than wins and losses sometimes. The girls' game is not quite like that. Is that true?
No, I don't think so. I think it's bigger among at some places. Coach Fisher always tells me that I get my girls to do and follow rules that nobody else can get them to do. But I tell my kids, I said, look, I don't do Twitter. I said, only thing I'm concerned about in the end is, did we play well, and what's the number up there under Cougars, and what's the number up there under Visitor, or vice versa, whatever. And that's all I'm concerned about. So if you're wanting to tweet something, here's my 2 rules. First of all, your name can't be in it. And secondly, nobody, even if we did, I don't want to see anything about anybody's butt being kicked. Okay. So, hey, great game from the Cougars tonight. Everybody contributed. We had a solid effort against a tough team from insert name of school here. If you want to tweet that, knock yourself out. I don't want to see anything else. And I've been very fortunate the girls follow that. I mean, my assistant coaches keep an eye on it and let me know if there's anybody that I have to talk to, but I haven't really had to talk to anybody, even as this has grown. Now, part of this whole AAU thing is that's how those guys market. And it's the trainer model now. I mean, instead of the club, my wife always used to say, if you didn't coach AAU, we'd live in a nicer house. You could earn more money and do a lot of things, and stop paying for everybody else's trips, and stuff. So, but now it's the trainer method. I coach the kids that show up, and I walk out of practice much like I walk out of any other practice and say, well, that was pretty good. We did this. We got to work on that, blah, 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 blah. These trainers are walking out of practice going 50, 100, 150, 200. They never have a bad practice because they're getting paid for them all. And they get these kids to come in and they say, well, if you're going to train with me, you have to play on my AAU team. And by the way, practices will count as part of your training. And I mean, it's against everything I believe in. And it's hard for me to, AAU is a sort of generic term, travel, whatever, YBOA, UBFC, well, all this stuff, it's all the same stuff, and this trainer model seems to be the deal. And I think that is then, I think in many ways, it's hurt the team. We mentioned about D1 players. In those systems, you've got a lot of individual training and a lot of people playing an individual game. And it's hard to necessarily know exactly if that's paying off or not, you know. As late as 20, when the Coyers were juniors, I had like 9 Division I players on their AAU team. We finished like second in the country. You know, that was back when the people that were playing were actually the best players, you know. And over the last 6 to 7 years, it's really changed, you know. You know, I don't want to just be taking pot shots. I'm sure there's some good stuff going out there, and I know there's some men and women that are out there working with their kids in a meaningful way and getting stuff done. So I don't want to cast too wide of a net, but there are a lot of people who are pretty much in it for the money. And once the money entered the girls' game, then all bets were off. You know, I used to have this in my back of my head 30 years ago that maybe the girls' game could avoid all that, but too much money. But this year, I think that Nike just pulled a bunch of money from the girls' side and put it back over to the boys' side, and that's caused great upheaval in at the EYBL level. And hard to see what the implications of that are going to be moving forward. But I mean, they cut EYBL girls' funding by a considerable amount.
Well, it's funny, just to talk about trainers for a while. You know, my son, who was wandering around behind us a while ago, he's a soccer player, and he's had a personal trainer, a one-on-one trainer for like the last several years, which is typical in soccer. But his trainers also coaches a travel team, he's also a high school coach. So he's the kind of guy who understands what his role is. His role is not to tell my son how to play in the game. His job is to improve his skills and talk, and maybe sometimes, you know, motivate him in a certain way, but it's within a team concept. And I think probably the trainers that are most effective, you know, should be coaches themselves.
Well, I tell you, well, part of this is a function of the VHSL and by extension Fairfax County keeping us away from the kids. I mean, you know, with some movement here with these green days, but if like a kid calls me up and says, "Hey, can you come over to, you know, Navy Elementary and rebound for me?" The answer technically is no. That's against the rules. But, you know, so I think that hurts a lot, and it drives them to these trainers, and then everybody looking for an advantage. And then question, I think there are a lot of great trainers out there that do keep it in perspective, but then you got those others that come and sit in your gym at half court on the other side and start coaching from the stands. And they're worse than the parents that want to do that. The kids listen to them more than they listen to their parents. And then,
right. Yeah.
I always say to my kids, I said, I can't tell you not to have a trainer. That's your choice. I mean, I can't even tell you what to do when you're not here. If you want to play 2 other sports while basketball season's going on, I won't tell you otherwise. Okay. I'll be disappointed if you're hurt and, you know, you owe some of the rest of the kids on this team. You know, that's your choice. But here's the thing. If we're in a game and I think you're listening to your trainer or your parents more than me, you're sitting down.
Right.
That's it. There can only be one person in charge here, and it's going to be me for now.
Yeah. Coach, one more question I wanted to ask you thanks for all your time today. This has been great. Why is it in the girls' game there's lack of parity with coaches? And what I mean is you'll have several coaches, you, Deegan, Trimmer, Gibson. You guys will win all the games, and it's always been like that. Whereas the boys' game seems to be a little bit more parity. You have any sense of why that is, or is it just that the best players tend to gravitate towards where the best coaches are, more on the girls' side?
Well, I think a couple of things come to mind. First of all, we're all old. That's part of it. So we've been around for a while, and I know that of course Dwight, last I heard, is coaching boys middle school in North Carolina. Is that right? That's the last I heard from him, and that's been years back. But there was a time when Coach Trimmer had like the 14s and Pat had the 15s, and I had the 16s in the Vogues, and so it was a great, I think. There was some very good coaching that went on there and kids benefited from 3 differing styles not only play, but coaching. But that was a really good situation for them. But I think that we've stuck around longer. That's been part of it. I don't want to get too much into players gravitating to play other coaches, because that was something I tried to discourage, although not everyone does. I think that there's been great coaches. I think that we have stuck it out. I mean, I think of guys like Gary Young, Kenny Farmer. I already mentioned Melissa Trowbridge, Laura Hagan. I think that they've moved on. Kathy Turner, Karen Turner, and Sheila Owens were all good coaches, but they kind of came through here and then moved on and went to colleges and stuff like that. And I think that when we started doing it, we were in it for a lifetime. People always ask me, they say, well, why haven't you gone and coached in college? And I actually had one opportunity to go to a Division III school, but I like coaching high school. And because of that, I put a lot of my heart and soul into it. One guy told me, he said, I don't coach 3 sports anymore. I stopped coaching football after 12 years. I stopped coaching baseball after 30 years. And so now it's just girls basketball. And so I said, but back when I was coaching 3 sports, they said, you know what? When you're coaching football, I think that football is the most important thing in your life. But then basketball season comes along, and I think, whoa, wait, no, basketball is the most important thing in your life. And then he said, oh no, but it's baseball. And what it is the way I choose to coach, and I can't speak for my colleagues but I think they bring a lot of that intensity and care and passion to the game. I just think that when I'm doing something, like when I'm doing this and I'm having this conversation with you, I'm not doing anything else. There's nothing else. I'm present and focused on that moment, this moment right now. And I think I try to bring that to my players, and I try to bring that to my coaching. And, like I say, Pat and Billy and Dwight, I think they have that sort of focus as well. We've changed over the years. We're all a little mellower. You can ask the officials, but maybe that wouldn't be good, because we still all get on them pretty hard sometimes. But the truth of the matter is, we just, it's something we chose for our lives. And I used to sometimes look out at basketball camp or something, and just for a minute I'd go, man, what have I done with my life? But then a few minutes had passed, I'd look around and say, man, look what I've done with my life.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Well, Coach, you've done an amazing job. You're a great coach. I always had so much respect for you. When I was a kid, when I was a high school player, all I wanted to do was be a coach. I wanted to coach. I wanted to coach basketball. I wanted to teach history or something like that. And I never got around to it. I did AAU and I did summer league and stuff. But, coaches are richly rewarded in the influence that they have on their people. And I've talked to several coaches, talked to you, Coach Hayes, Oliver Purnell. I guess he actually made a lot of money, but I talked to a lot of high school coaches, and they seem to be very happy in retirement. Again, they probably didn't make the money they deserved on the coaching, but the relationships, the memories, the influence that they had, you can almost get that in no other profession. The way I view my coaches, they're gods to me. When I talk to them, it makes my day and stuff. So I think you've the people that you've helped along the way, such as Jasmine McQuarrie and all the other Division III, or the folks that never played college. You should be commended of what you've done. And again, from a basketball point of view, you're just a fantastic coach. Even though you yelled at me a lot, I just think you did a wonderful job, and I'm just glad you decided to do this.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will tell you, as I said, I feel so blessed with all the people I've met. I have people think I have this bad relationship with officials, but the truth of the matter is that in the off seasons we spent a lot of time talking. We did clinics, we did some things together, and actually was able to make some points with some of them. And I said, well, you're asking me how I can see that. I see it every day in practice. Every day I see that same foul. You can't defend her without fouling her. And they go, okay. All right. So they have to think about that. But I know everybody's out there doing a job. We all have to do it for any of this to work. And like I say, I feel proud of how my life has led. And I mean, I'm not in any hurry to stop doing this. You know, I just retired 2 years ago as a counselor, and then came back for maternity leave and took it right after the pandemic. And then this year, one of the counselors resigned the week before school. So I was there all this year. So I haven't really been retired yet. So I don't know, maybe I'll start being retired in September, but I'm still working hard in basketball and trying to figure out the next thing. I mean, we the last couple of years have been throwing the ball inside all the time, but maybe this year we don't have any inside players, so we're going to try some other things. And I know you had mentioned talking about the differences in the way kids play. We've all, like I said at the beginning, we've always gonna play with what the talent we've got, you know. But you know, I watch the NBA finals. I watch all this. I go back and review all my films, and I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the best thing for our team this year. And that's kind of the challenge of it. And then seeing it all play out, that's the joy of it. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, hopefully now that the pandemic's over, cross our fingers. I got to come check one of your games out, and I would love to see your team play. And hopefully you have best luck this year. And maybe you learn some things. We've all learned how to do more with less during the pandemic. Maybe there's things that you know, you can have some fun with this year.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. Well, hopefully we'll be in a new gym this year because they tore our down. And I don't know if you've been to West Springfield's new gym, but it's going to be so. Anyway, looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting back at it. And you know, got a green day tonight, so you know.
Oh, awesome.
So we'll get a workout in with the kids, and you know, try to get a couple in before school starts, and get ready. Yeah.
Well, Coach, well, look, thanks again for your time, and let's definitely keep in touch. And I'll definitely check out a game this fall. This
definitely. You keep doing the things you're doing. I get such a kick out of it. I'm not much of a poster on those things, but I see faces and names. And one of the things that I worry about is the loss of the institutional knowledge. And, you know, so if you ever have any questions, you can shoot them my way. I got a room right next door to this one that used to be a bedroom, just filled with stuff.
Yeah, but between you and Chris Coyer, I mean, you guys have all that information. We got to get it all down on.
Yeah, he keeps you on your toes. I noticed that, you know. But and then Rusty too, Rusty Payne. He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. He's real sharp too. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, Coach. Yeah, have a great rest of your summer and good luck this year.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, you too.